Hello and welcome to a very special Agent Wow video, and I'm sitting with Ed Mead. Ed Mead, how are you?
Hello, I'm very good, thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes, good to have you here. Obviously, we know who you are, a BBC TV series, a 40-year career, a property expert, industry commentator, slots on LBC, but you're here as Viewber, and I suppose what we need to do is tell the guys and girls what Viewber's all about.
Okay, well, Viewber is the world's first outsourced viewing service that uses the sharing economy. So we've built up a network of vetted local people all over the country to handle viewings for estate agents when they can't do them. So we look at ourselves as an overflow service, but it seems to be opening up other areas as well, and it's growing very fast.
Fantastic. There's a lot of articles about it. We heard 6,500 viewings this year alone, so it's obviously a very popular thing. Why is it there? What's the problem that it solves? What's the actual benefit for the agent?
Well, I think one of the problems with a lot of prop tech stuff is that people come up with really good ideas, but what they don't do is talk to an agent first.
Fair enough.
And I think, obviously, having been an agent for a long time, I just know that there's a hole in the industry in terms of customer expectations for viewings. If any of you have ever tried to look at a property at a weekend or in an evening, it can be really difficult. When I was at Douglas and Gordon, for instance, our Saturday and Sunday diaries, or Saturday diaries, we didn't really do viewings on Sundays, would fill up by Wednesday. So anybody that called Thursday, Friday wanting to see something on Saturday would be told, really sorry, the diary's full. So I know that there's a hole for this service. But of course, if you ask a member of the public what estate agents do, they say, well, they show houses, don't they? Now that's not what estate agents do. Estate agents get deals from offer to exchange. But the public thinks it's all about viewing. So the public perception of the estate agency service is that they'll do the viewings whenever they want to do it. And actually that's not the case. So what we do is give estate agents the ability to turn around to any of their customers and say, yeah, we can get anybody in to see any of our properties 24/7, which is a big service commitment.
Yeah, massive. I mean, this is flexibility and moving towards the kind of timings that the Joe public want.
Well, I think there's a big change coming in terms of consumer expectations. I mean, at the moment, the average age of a first-time buyer is what, 36, 38, well into middle age. But as that age falls, and particularly as the sort of latest generation of people who are allergic to using the telephone, let alone, actually talking to an estate agent to arrange anything, the more they come through, the more they're going to want service when they want it. They're used to things happening on demand. And I think that as that happens, the ability to be able to service them is going to be an absolutely integral part of the estate agency option service.
Okay, it's interesting. It's obviously growing. We hear about the viewing numbers, and we hear about the amount of viewers, as you call them, that are doing these viewings. It's interesting how you say these are ex-professionals, ex-surveyors.
Well, I mean, we haven't done any demographics in terms of age, but they're mostly older people, retired. So from that point of view, as a use of the gig economy, the sharing economy, it works very well because these people are just going about their daily lives and they get offered viewings. Some are very busy, some haven't done a viewing yet at all. Clearly, we've got 2,200 viewers at the moment, growing quite a lot, and we've done 6,500 viewings. There are some, how can I put it, challenged people out there who think that means that all of them have done 3 viewings. Well, it doesn't work like that at all. The objective is, with growing a business, you've got to grow the network first,
of course, yeah,
and then do the viewings. I mean, the 6,500 is interesting because it took us 3 months to do the first 50.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was very slow. So now it's growing very fast. So that figure will accelerate, I think, very quickly, and we have the capacity to do it.
Fantastic. And obviously this is regionalised and location-based as to where...
It's nationwide. Our guarantee to any of our customers is that we'll do a viewing. That's it. As long as we're given at least 24 hours notice. We can normally do them at much shorter notice. Our best ever is 19 minutes, I think, from asking to actual having the viewer on the doorstep to do the viewing. That's obviously exceptional. We normally ask for 24 hours.
And what's the danger of, say, Joe Public now thinking, well, I could potentially sell my house myself using services like yours? Where does that kind of leave the agent?
Well, again, I think people have to understand what estate agents do. 20% of the estate agent's work is doing the viewings and getting the offer. 80% of what estate agents do is getting it from, as I said earlier, from offer to exchange. The bit about how do you deal with solicitors, how do you sort out a valuation, how do you sort out a bad valuation, how do you deal with difficult moments. So I don't think that no one's ever going to replace that. Lots of the online agents particularly try and deal with that bit, and their way of dealing with it is effectively to say, you do it. And the trouble with asking a punter to do it is that if you're if you own your own home and you've probably moved 3 or 4 times in your entire life, you're going to have no idea what you're going to think. Great, I've got an offer, it's sold. That's not sold. Sold is when you exchange contracts.
Very true.
And if you're trying to do it yourself and you suddenly get into trouble with solicitors and mortgage companies, and there's so much that happens, you need help, and that's the bit we'll never replace that.
So we're talking about this term that seems to be thrown around, the buzzword, the hybrid agency. We're talking about taking what is a traditional service-based industry, keeping that professionalism, keeping the expertise, but just making it flexible and appealing to the millennial, the internet generation, by adding these services on.
Well, I think it can appeal to anybody. There are an awful lot of people out there who are bright, they have the time and the knowledge to do these things themselves. So what the public wants is choice. I think the problem at the moment is that you've got a sort of binary option, it seems to most people. You either go online or you go traditional, which is just, it's not the way it works. If you look at what's happening at the moment, LSL dropping 20 million into Yopa, the Easy Property Guild deal, Savills having put money into Yopa. There's lots and lots and lots of examples out there of high street agents investing in online, and I think that where you're going to find is that things are in the middle. What people want to be able to do is have the choice. If they want to go a direct route, this is where I think Countrywide have been very, very brave. They're getting a lot of brickbats thrown at them, but they're maybe 2 years ahead of the curve here. You get a lot of data, a lot of leads out of offering a direct offering. So people can go for the direct offering, but like often happens, people get halfway through the direct offering and they think, help, I've got an offer, I can't handle it, simply upsell and give it to the agent to deal with. Yeah. That has got to be a sensible model, I think, for the future. And then you look at agencies like my old one, Douglas and Gordon, we've started opening broker-only areas. So Streatham, Kensal Rise, Queen's Park, areas around where Douglas and Gordon operated in London. We've put brokers into those areas, centralised marketing, and that's proving very successful. So I think that's the sort of direction things are going.
Sounds interesting. And what about what's next? What do you think is next along this direction? We talk about this is the way it's going. Is there anything that you see or any kind of predictions?
Well, I mean, let's look at some figures. I mean, the average territory area for a Purple Bricks LPE is about 60 square miles.
Okay.
The average estate agent's area of influence is about 3 square miles, and that's with a full office of people. So there's no way that any agent that's trying to have one property expert dealing with a 60 square mile patch is in any shape or form going to be anywhere near being local.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So you're going to need 20 times more Purple Bricks LPs to even begin to cover the areas that the estate agents are currently covering. That's a huge number, obviously.
Massive, yeah. Massive.
So I think, as I said before, I think companies like Countrywide, the Guild, LSL and Yopa, some of these companies that have got the ability to offer a direct offering and back it up with proper local property experts, i.e. local companies, local businesses, I can't help feeling that that's the way forward. It offers the consumer the choice, because they can either go direct if they've got the time and the inclination, and if they suddenly panic, they can just hand it over and pay the 1.5–2% to the agent. Mm-hmm. And of course that's where we come in, because what the very last thing if you buy a direct package is that you don't want the local agents, negotiators doing the viewings, because they've got their own businesses to run. So they buy a package from someone like us, we can service all that, keep it removed from the agency, and then when they upsell, the negotiators come in and do the business. And I see that as being the future. I can't help feeling that that's the way forward. So I think there's a lot more consolidation and integration to go here.
So we're talking about, we mention a lot of times kind of the doom and gloom of the online agent trying to steal a bit of the march on the traditional agents we talk about, but it's not. This is very much just about offering consumer choice, flexibility, and actually a better service, a better business, and that's kind of where services like Viewber and other bits and pieces come in to just bring it up to date, up to the time that we're in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting quite sort of pissed off really with the binary commentary on this. It's not one thing or the other. It's just not, and it's very. At the moment, you've got the online sector sitting there saying, oh, we can save you millions in fees and this, that, and whatever, and then you've got the traditional high street guy sitting there saying, well, no, the online's all rubbish. The truth is going to end up somewhere in between. So there's no point sitting throwing brickbats. It's competition. Some of the stuff that these onliners do is brilliant. I mean, you look at the Purple Bricks haven't got where they are without having something that's very right. Their communication platform is fantastic. the fact that they monetize the conveyancing and the mortgage financing bit of it. Agents have to take their income from as many sources as possible to keep going. Everyone wants a successful agent acting for them. And there's no reason why, as a buyer, you shouldn't listen to your agent when it comes to being advised about mortgages, provided you're offered a choice, and you're not saying, right, you can only buy this property if you buy this mortgage, but provided someone gives you sensible advice. They deal with it all the time, so why wouldn't you go to your local estate agent or talk to your estate agent for advice on those subjects? It makes perfect sense.
It does, 100%. I think what happens is a lot of the agents, they get scared by the whole notion of the fixed fee, and obviously that's been around long before people jumped online and started selling houses without agents, but it's kind of, there's a job, there's a kind of PR job here in kind of convincing agents that fixed fee and online is not the same thing. They're two totally different things. It's just a methodology, and actually embracing some of that tech and using some of these services actually makes your agency a better place for a consumer to be.
Well, I think you've got to understand that the online agents are now spending, what, 10, 15, 20 million, I think it's more than that actually, I think it's about 30 million in total on advertising on TV. So the public now knows that they have a choice. But of course all they see is 799, 899, not understanding they've got to pay it up front and all that sort of thing. So whereas in the past most people when they were thinking about selling would probably get 3 agents in. They'd get a local one office operation they'd always walk past at the end of the road, they'd get a sort of big corporate national agent and someone in between to come in. Now they're tending to get 2 of those 3, but then they're thinking, oh, I've seen that ad on TV, I might just get one of them in to have a try. So they're trying it. So it is creeping into people's consciousness. So as the demographic of buyers, as the age falls and communication and forms of communication change, that they're going to gain traction. But I think there is definitely some sort of denouement coming down the line here, because I think that leaving someone on their own to deal with a sale, the English in particular don't like talking about money. So if you've got your property on the market for 250 grand and someone comes along and offers you 225, if you're sort of English, you're going to go, yeah, okay, fine, I might take that. But a good agent might say, well, hang on a minute, we've got 20 people coming round this week. Thank you for your offer. We'll let the other people come round and we'll let you know how it goes. You may end up getting 275. You could be well out of pocket. So I think there are going to be a lot of issues coming down the line around whether people are getting the right deals or not, the right sale prices. And that's what this is all about. We've got to remember, this is about helping people sell their biggest asset.
And how do agents as a whole, or the profession, the industry, get that across to the public at the same rate that the likes of a Purple Bricks are saying, 799 will sell your house?
Well, there are moves afoot to do that. There are quite a lot of people who are getting together to fight back, particularly on TV. I mean, over the weekend, Savills obviously is a relatively wealthy company, but they're starting to spend quite a lot of money on TV now. But I think you might find, and this is one of the biggest problems actually that estate agents have, and it's one of the things they've found very difficult in terms of fighting back, is that 80% of estate agents are one-man bands, probably owned by, or one single owner owned companies, probably a middle-aged owner. Making tech decisions for them is very difficult, because if they make the wrong decision it could put them out of business, hence why the corporates and the big companies get an advantage, because they can trial these sort of things. But the difficulty is getting that 80% together. We struggle with on the market, Agents Mutual, trying to get that sorted out. A lot of people are saying, yeah, that's great, you go and take the fall and then we'll jump on later, which is why it didn't work in its original form. So getting estate agents together to do anything is very, very difficult from a tech perspective. So from that perspective, I think they're really struggling to answer what these people like Purple Bricks are doing. So anyone who can get them together to fight back on TV and say what you really want to do is not pay your money up front to this person, but to go and use a good local agent, is going to be very helpful, and I think there are moves afoot to do that.
It's very interesting you mentioned fight back, you said it a couple of times. Is there a way that the online agent and the traditional agent can live in harmony?
Well, I think they are already. You wouldn't find LSL putting 20 million into Yopa and all these other companies. You wouldn't find them doing that unless, even Jackson Stops yesterday said we're going to be delivering some sort of offering. Belvoir said, Dorian Gonsalves was in the press last week saying that they're investigating and will be launching something in the next 3 to 6 months. A lot of big names are talking about launching a direct offering. You've got to remember that if we're talking about these 3 agents getting through the door, if you as a local property owner realise that you can get a decent direct deal from a local name that you recognise, That's quite powerful. So all these agents want to do is to be able to get through the door. So offering a direct route is going to get more leads to them. So I think there's every reason to believe that they will go down that route.
Yeah, I mean, it does correspond with the reports, just financial reports about the high street, the smaller shop income going up and turnover, and more spending down the local high street, and a lot of groups run by societies, associations, local councils to try and build up the high street, and the estate agent is one of those traditional high street shops, premises that the people are often...
Probably rather too many. I mean, there are some high streets you go down where you get 15 all in a line. I mean, that can't stay the way it
It's
is.
tough when you want to buy an artisan loaf from your bakery and it's turned into an estate agent, I'm sure. But I mean, it is what it is. But it's good. It's great. It's more evolution. It's not direct change. It's not a panic stations scenario. It's just, let's take a traditional business, all that expertise that the agents have and that the public require, and just make it a bit more flexible, a bit more choice, and bring it up to date.
Well, yeah, it's the trouble is, for too long, I think, the public, the buying public and the renting public, because don't forget, if the average age of a first-time buyer is 36, 37, 38, a lot of people are renting up until then, so let's not forget renters here. The problem is they've often had to force themselves into operating within the estate agent's frame of reference.
Yes.
And I think, for instance, what we're doing at Viewber is to say, no, you don't have, well, we're saying to estate agents, you don't have to do that. You can turn around. If someone does bring up, for instance, a property is becoming vacant to let, one open house for 30 minutes on a Tuesday evening, you can probably get half a dozen people round that'll let it. You pay 30 quid to us to go and do that. What's not to like? That means you can do it without having to get one of your negs to go and do it. Your negs can be getting deals done, mining their databases, whatever it is. So, to me, that needs to be the biggest change for estate agents, is to understand the consumer's perspective, that they want to do what they want when they want to do it, not when the estate agent wants to do it. And I think that's a big change, and I think a lot of the technology around at the moment can help that happen.
It sounds almost too good to be able to add all these solutions, these services, and extend your agency. We talked about Viewber having 6,500 views this year. We talk about well over 2,000 Viewbers in place. What's the growth plan for Viewber then, if things keep going?
Viewber's been rather like playing one of those arcade games where you shove 2p pieces in,
Yeah.
and they just slowly build up and they sort of move towards the edge and start tipping off the edge, and they're now beginning to tip off the edge. And we've got some really big household names trialling us and doing things. Clearly, the online and the auction sector were very quick to embrace what we're doing, because if you're an auction company based in London and you want to do stuff in anywhere in the country, we can do 3 open houses for 90 quid anywhere in the country. Well, it's not, but that's just a no-brainer. For the onliners who don't have large numbers of property experts, which is most of them, it gives them the opportunity to sell viewing packages to their clients. But clearly, the online sector is still only about 5% of the total. So the main body of, certainly from estate agency viewings, is the high street. Yeah. And they've been very slow to adopt it. They're very slow to adopt change anyway. I've been around and seen an awful lot of them over the last year. And it's a fascinating industry, but it's one that's been very slow to change. Effectively, the way people sell, the way estate agents sell property hasn't really changed since I started in 1979. People bang on about Zoopla and Rightmove as being very modern. They're not. They're just extensions of the Sunday Times. They're just another way of advertising your property. That's it. So everything else is done the same as it always has been. So I really do think that the industry is ready. But from our point of view, the growth area is amongst the high street, and doing that overflow. I mean, obviously, the right person to show a property is the estate agent. Of course, it is. But if you're going to sell properties, people tend to go back 2, 3, 4 times to see it. They'll take a decorator in, they'll take their mother-in-law, their father. Do you really want to send a negotiator out for 2 hours to go and do that, when you can pay someone 30 quid to go and do it, and have the negotiator, as I said, pushing deals through, getting offers? Why would you not do that? So to me, it's a complete no-brainer. But I've been an estate agent for a long time, and I know that's the case. Persuading other people is not necessarily that easy, but it is beginning to happen. So that's the future, penetrating into that market.
And so that's the future for Viewber. What about the future for Ed? Where are we going to see you pop up next?
It's a bit daft for me, having been around for as long as I have, not to continue to do stuff on the property side. So, like everything in life, there's a sort of 80-20 rule here. 80% of my time spent on Viewber, but 20% is spent consulting or advising some really interesting companies. I mean, one of the most difficult things about leaving, bear in mind I was in an office environment for the thick end of 40 years, so to come out of that, you're suddenly on your own, and yes, I've still got my shares in Douglas & Gordon, which is great, but I'm not earning any money from them, so I need to go out and make money. You know, I've got a successful wife, which is great, but I want to keep my side of the street clean. So the difficulty is not saying yes to everything. So I've said yes to some very interesting things. I'll give you one example. Buy-to-let legislation has obviously changed enormously over the last couple of years, and is really scaring the living daylights out of a lot of people. Figures out a couple of weeks ago said that something like 22% of all buy-to-let landlords are considering selling now because of the changes. Well, I'm talking at the moment about being an NED for a REIT, the first residential REIT. Now, if you're a property owner and you're thinking about selling your buy-to-let, why not exchange it? These people have got 10, 15, 20 million quid's worth of property themselves, which they're putting into a residential REIT they're going to list. Why not consider buying units, getting rid of all the sort of tax issues you may have, making your investment more liquid and not having to sell it? Because at the moment, with interest rates where they are, people still don't have a choice as to where they invest. There's very, very few. So buy-to-let is still a good opportunity. So that's one example of the type of thing that I've been doing. And one or two of the other things which I alluded to earlier in terms of a fight back amongst sort of independent agents and getting groups together. I've been talking to some people about that. And obviously I've been on the board of On the Market, but now that's hopefully going to IPO, that'll change. There's no way I would stay involved with that. So yeah, 80-20, 20% is still very interesting. And bear in mind the other thing about Viewber, from my perspective, is that there are lots of other uses for local people.
Yes,
you know,
very true.
sitting there, you know, waiting for deliveries, all sorts of things, loss adjusting. There's lots and lots of other stuff that intelligent, vetted local people can do on behalf of other outside services. So.
It opens up a very big marketplace. Yeah. And the last thing I was going to say was, are you Viewbering?
No, do you know, I haven't actually done any Viewbering. I've occasionally been asked. My business partner has rung me up and very early on tried to persuade me to do it. And actually, do you know what? I've had enough of that.
I'm sure you have. Ed, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming down.
Thanks for asking me.
So we thank Ed Mead from Viewber. Check it out on the website, and all the links will be in the description. And we'll see you again next time. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.